Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about your 50-yard zero with your AR-15, which has the goal of giving you a second zero at 200 yards. And the thing I want to talk about in this video is that instead of really focusing on getting that 50-yard zero, you know, get in the ballpark, get it so that you're impacting within, let's say, within a half inch, and then go out to 200 yards and see what you do. Okay, because different barrel lengths, different ammunition, you're gonna get. It's gonna be different, right? You're gonna have to make adjustments at 200 yards, and really the point of this video is don't get too crazy with getting your 50-yard zero perfect. What I normally do when I get a zero is I'll get a zero at 50 yards that's impacting within an inch of my 50 yard, right? Within an inch. Then I'll go to 100 yards. At 100 yards, I want to be about 2 inches high of my bullseye. Okay, so once I get my 2 inches high, right, then I go to 200 yards, right, because that's where I really want to focus. At 200 yards, I want to, I want to be centered around my bullseye. Okay, so I was using today one of my first Palmetto uppers. Okay, so this one here is at least 8 years old. It might be older than that. I don't remember exactly. So one of the things I was interested in doing today is figuring out were the Palmetto AR-15s less accurate 8+ years ago, or were they always accurate and just better optics, better shooting? I've gotten better over the years, so that's one of the things I was I was considering. I wasn't planning to do a video out of this. I wasn't I was curious, but if I was really that interested, I guess I would have put an LPVO on this to really find out the answer to that. I didn't. I just wanted a ballpark idea, which is why I just kept the red dot that's on it. And obviously, with the red dot, a 2 MOA dot, when you're shooting at, let's say, whatever, 50 or 100 yards, it's going to be bigger than your bullseye. So it's going to cover up. So one of the things that I do is when I'm at 100 yards, I'll put my red dot underneath it so that my impacts will be just above it. Okay. So that's one of the things I try to do. As far as answering that first question, putting my red dot underneath it, I was able to get. I am using cheap ass Igman ammunition. Okay, so this stuff is not super consistent, but it kind of gives me an idea. I normally expect out of 5 shots I'll have one flyer. I got one right there. So the total group was 2¼ inches, including that flyer. But then when I look at the best 4, I'm inside 1¼ inch, approaching an inch. Okay, so it kind of answered my questions. The Palmettos of 8 years ago, they were shooting an inch back then too. Okay, so no major change from what I'm getting then versus what I'm getting now. And like I said, this is rough using target ammunition, just looking at the best 4 out of 5 shots. I'm using a red dot, not like an LPVO with a fine aiming point. But that answered my question. But more importantly, it's okay, because what I was doing with this is I was going underneath it. I thought I had it because I started up here. I started hitting here. I'm making adjustments, and at some point I'm you know what? Let's just take this out to 200 yards, and see where we're impacting. Okay. Because here's the thing, even if you have a 50-yard zero, you change different barrel lengths, different ammunition, you can get different impacts. So let's just take this out to 200 yards and see where it's impacting. So I thought I was, because this is the last group I shot here, right, at 100 yards, and it looked like it was impacting a little bit low. So I expected it to impact high. I'm sorry, I expected it to impact low at 200 yards. Because it looked like it was impacting a low here. So I went 200 yards, and for whatever crazy reason, I centered my bullseye on this paper. Bullseye, rather, I centered my red dot on the paper. Red dot now at 200 yards, about the size of my palm here. I'm centering it on the paper, and the first shots were like up here. So for whatever reason, I was impacting like way high. So I go down 2 clicks, and ignore these holes here. Those holes are from something else. The red holes, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1/5 flyer out here. Again, I'm centering something now the size of my palm, right? This 2 MOA dot. So it's still not going to be perfect. You're not going to have the fine aim of, let's say, the chevron of an LPVO. So I managed at 200 yards. I'm impacting just a little bit low over here, right? Just a little bit low. And with the Igman ammo, the total group, including all 5 shots, including this 1 flyer out here, I've got 5.5 inches at 200 yards. But I usually look at the best 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5, I've got 3.5. Okay, so 3.5 at 200 yards. I'm like, whatever that is. I'm inside of, or I'm at about, I think I'm just above 1.5 MOA. So rifle shooting good with target ammo. So I had, like I said, initially I'm impacting up here, and I adjusted down 2 clicks. I ended up here, and now I'm like, okay, is that where I want to stay? Now that's a good place to be, because at 200 yards now, if you put the dot here, you're going to impact here, right? So so that's not a bad place to be. I'm like, let's try this now out at 100 yards and see where I'm impacting at 100 yards. So that's this paper here. Again, I'm pulling out these papers that have been used, because, like I said, I wasn't planning to do a video. So let me just use up these papers. So I've got this paper here. It hasn't been shot up too much. And what I did is I got my bullseye here. I take my red dot. I basically try to cover this as best as I can. Try to cover the bullseye as best as I can and center it. And the impacts are about 1 inch high. Okay, so at 100 yards, I'm about 1 inch high. If I look at the center of the group, this total group. Yeah, again, using this Igman ammunition, the 5 shots were about 3 inches. And that's what, like I said, the real issue here is like trying to center this gigantic dot that's bigger than your bullseye. So that's, it's really hard to do better than 3 MOA with just a dot. I mean, you can if you're looking at the size of the paper and trying to center it. If I shoot it enough, I will get really nice groups, even with a red dot, but I just wasn't, I mean, that wasn't the goal today, right? That really wasn't the goal. Or at least when I shot this, that really wasn't the goal. So so the point of this video, is really like when you're zeroing in your AR. What I'll usually do is I'll go to 30 yards, right? At 30 yards, I want to be about 1 inch low at 30 yards, right? Because then that will get me right on the bullseye at 50 yards. If it's close enough, within an inch or half an inch, I'll go to 100 yards. 100 yards, I want to be about 2 inches high. And then I'll go to 200 yards. At 200 yards is where I'm really focusing that, again, I'm picturing a target the size of a head. I want to be within 2 or 3 inches of the center, which is what I got here. Okay, so basically I'm about, the center of this group is right about here. So I'm about 1 inch low at 200 yards, right? 200 yards over here. So that's good. That's a good zero to have on an AR with a red dot. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I want to talk about today mainly. Is to, like, don't get too crazy with your 50-yard zero. Get out to 200. Like once you have a good approximation, with a 50-yard zero, once you see that you're hitting about 2 inches high at 100 yards, get out to 200 yards and really dial it in there, okay? And then everything inside is going to fall into place, okay? So drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to y'all soon.